Welcome back, everyone, to the Casual GM Podcast. I am your host, Drew, and with me, as always, my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
Just as handsome as ever, Drew.
Yes.
How about yourself? I almost messed it up. How about yourself?
Oh, no. Mike, what's going on, man? You said you had a surprise. Do you want to wait for people in chat to show up before you do the surprise?
Yeah, we'll do that. We got a couple other things we can kind of talk about. We'll talk a little bit. Like there's a couple news and notes I wanted to cover.
Sure.
Tua. Rumor has it he's not going to be in this next game. Like
he is confirmed to be out. Mike McDaniel said he's out
in the last game. That's scary.
Well, it's not. I mean, okay. So I mean, like, yeah, he played in that next game 4 days later, but he came back into the game.
Yeah.
Where he was originally. I mean, like, so
What's
I
worse,
did.
Right. Jeez.
I think that is probably the worst of the two problems. So, like, I heard that the NFL and the NFLPA, Players Association, are going to immediately look at rule changes. So, like, basically, what I saw, which I'm not entirely certain if this is where they're headed or not, but if a player stumbles when they try and get up, they are immediately out of the game and into the concussion protocol. No check or whatever to determine whether or not you're in the protocol. You are just automatically confirmed to be in it and not allowed to come back in.
Yeah.
You know what? I really like that idea.
I do too. Takes the guesswork out of it.
Yes, exactly. So then the player knows that they're. So like I was listening to some sports radio, which is, as we know, maybe the greatest source for accurate information in the history of the media.
Yep, you never get anything wrong there.
Correct. And they said that there is kind of a nomenclature that goes around in the NFL about what you can say to answer the kinds of questions that they ask you to be right so that you can get back in the game and you can kind of cheat the test.
Interesting.
So, like, if that is true, which I imagine that based upon people wanting to play the sport just because their desire to, and their desire to not have their spot taken by somebody else who might take advantage of that opportunity.
Or let the team down.
Right. Exactly. All those ideas, all those kinds of like, not cliche, but like you hear them time and time again. People want to get back in the game, and sometimes you have to protect people from themselves, unfortunately. And so I don't mind a rule, even if it's going to affect my team, that says, okay, you tried to get up and you literally couldn't get your legs are so wobbly that you couldn't get your legs under you. And a teammate had to run over. I remember who was telling it. It was Danny Amendola, former Lion Danny Amendola. And he was talking to, I believe, Ryan Russillo from The Ringer. And they were talking like when Julian Edelman, also a Patriots wide receiver, got concussed. He and Edelman had a deal where he would run over and kind of like prop him up so he could take a couple like breaths for like 5 or 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And kind of get his wits back about him. And it looked like they were like celebrating, and he'd like, pat his helmet or like hold him up by the shoulder pads or whatever. And it was just like, he was like, yeah, Julian is out on his feet, and I would just prop him up for 10 or 15 seconds until he could walk under his own power back to the sideline. And we do this once or twice a year for each other, and that's just what you do, And like, I just don't think concussions have got to be such a more prevalent issue than we think they are.
Yeah.
In the NFL. So, I mean, Amendola was like, I used to get at least one a year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me with the receivers. I mean, Amendola went over across the middle all the time too. And you're going to get your
not a big guy,
Yeah.
Not an AJ Brown, he's a Danny Amendola. So
yeah. So yeah, that's unfortunate. I did hear, and I'm not 100% sure how accurate this is, but I heard that the NFL did let go of the unaffiliated neurosurgeon that made the call because he made a lot of mistakes, quote unquote, like a lot of mistakes were made, and they were like, peace. So I mean, at least they're taking it seriously after that and looking back and kind of doing a retrospective. All right, what happened? How can we avoid it in the future? And they're hopefully taking some better steps.
Well, I mean, one would hope that when it comes to like threatening the integrity of the sport, right? So I kind of put this on the same idea as like the suspension of Calvin Ridley for gambling. They do not want people to lose faith in the integrity of football.
Yeah.
And so whatever happens or needs to happen to protect that, they're going to react to immediately.
Yeah.
Like, and they're going to figure that out first, you know, and then if something needs to be addressed later in the offseason, that's fine. But like, you can always tell what's the most important to somebody when based upon like how quickly and how drastic they go to change it.
Yeah.
You know?
What's up, Funky? Welcome, buddy.
Oh, is Funky in the chat?
Yeah, Funky's in the chat. He has arrived.
He is our rock.
Yep. I love it.
Our strong oak tree.
And then welcome to anybody that's watching video on demand after whenever we get done, right?
Yes. Right, yeah, no kidding.
So I want to talk about that. The other thing before we get into like Lion stuff.
Yeah.
I watched Monday Night Football last night, and the Rams looked like hot garbage. Their offensive line looks just abysmal. Their defense didn't play particularly well. Stafford didn't play well, but he also he had what 6 sacks or something like that, and I think an additional like 5 knockdowns or something. He was just pummeled.
His line is truly subpar. Like, I mean, I don't think that. I mean,
I used to it.
It's kind of cute.
Yeah.
But
what's up, A6?
Oh, good.
Welcome, buddy.
I mean,
yeah. Anyway, the reason I bring that up is it can do nothing but make our draft pick better. So
if the draft was today, the Lions would be picking 8th and 16th.
That's
good.
I mean, those are pretty decent picks.
I would not mind picking 8th and 16th.
Yeah.
I want the Lions to win more than they are currently winning. And if it has to be that the Rams and the Lions switch places so that we can pick 8th and 16th, I'm totally fine with it.
Right on. Yep. So let's get to the game.
Yeah.
Right. So Lions Seahawks were 4.5-point favorites. There was the over-under was 50. Then I think it dropped down to about 48 after Chark was also ruled out. And I think I texted you. I'm like, hey, I'm not exactly sure how over-under works. Is that per team?
Yeah, no kidding.
Good God.
Well, you can bet both. I bet I had an in-game parlay this week. So every week I put $20 on the Lions or what I think the outcome of the game will be. And so I was 3-0 just betting the money line, like who's going to win the game and what odds.
Yeah.
And I put $20 on that. So this week I was like, I feel better about it. And I put my bet in on Tuesday. Don't do that. Wait.
Friday and Saturdays, those are good days to put.
Even if the line moves, wait, So like everybody was out. Basically every skill position player except TJ Hawkinson was out. And I said, I'm going to put $10 on the Lions to win by more than 4 points. And I'm going to bet the over that the two teams combined will score more than 50 points. I'm like, the Lions defense was giving up something like 31 heading into, or 28 or something like that heading into this week. And I thought, I looked up some stats on both teams and I'm like, well, both of these defenses are terrible.
Yeah.
So like, who's going to stop who first, right? And so the Lions never stopped the Seahawks. They never punted once.
First time in their history.
Yeah, there you go. So Detroit Lions setting records. And so I won the over, but I lost the winner. So I lost both bets. So that's a bummer.
This was also, not sure if you knew this, the first time an NFL game ended in a 48-45 score.
Great.
Yep. It's strange but true. You'd think at this point with thousands of games being played. That's just about every combination would be there, but no, there's several still out there.
Just a fun fact. ASIC says just get the Cooper Cup receptions line every week.
Yeah.
Cooper Cup already through like 4 games has something like, I just saw like 48 receptions.
He's leading the league.
He has more than the Bears.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like that's insane.
Allen Robinson hasn't done much, and OBJ is hurt, obviously, or is not on the team. You know, he's hurt and he's not on anybody's team.
He visited the Giants this week.
He what?
He visited the Giants this week.
Did he? Interesting. Yeah, that would be an interesting reunion. But yeah, I mean, they don't have anybody to throw to. I mean, Higbee's okay as a tight end. Their other tight end is not particularly great. Guys like Tutu Atwell and Ben Skoranek. Skoranek actually looked better this year than last year, but not great. So it's kind of like cup or bust at this point because Robinson's just not doing much.
Well, if it's cup or bust, I'm glad you've got Cooper Cup because that guy can not fail to get open. He's amazing. So a 3rd round pick out of an FCS school, and he's arguably the best wide receiver in football. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, 48-45 offensive sheet. We actually talked about it last Tuesday that we thought that this was going to be a shootout. And then we're like, well, is it going to be like 30? I think you picked 31-27. I picked like 31-28 or something along those lines. And we were both off by 2.5 touchdowns apiece. Right? It's just absurd. So
Joey's like weird flex. Okay. So like you gotta take what you can get as a Lions fan, Joey. Come on, man. Yeah. So yeah, that's true. This game did not go how I thought it was going to go. Was it an offensive like rock'em sock'em fight? Yeah, it was. The fact that we were down Swift and St. Brown and Chark and both guards and, you know, just all the people. It's just probably the, you know, big contributing factor or what have you. So I'm looking forward to getting through week 5 so that you can get into the bye week and we can get, you know, hopefully like Swift will heal up, Chark, everyone gets better.
Right.
You know, and you get,
maybe.
Yeah, well, I don't know. He's going to be back after the bye. I mean, he'll certainly be back after the bye week at some point. But like what I've heard is that like Jerry Jacobs and Josh Paschal might be ready to start practicing again. So like we'll have this week of practices leading up to the New England game, which I believe is in New England.
I think so.
And then from, you know, that Sunday, we'll have almost 2 weeks, you know, before like 13 days or something like that until, or I guess maybe it's actually 2 weeks since the Lions don't play on any other day but Sunday and at any other time than 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So
we play on a Thursday.
Oh, that's right, on Thanksgiving. My bad. Yes. So, so I'm still hopeful that they can go into New England and pull out a W. Like, my concern there is that New England with Bailey Zappi at quarterback hung with the Packers, and then like when it comes to the Lions, I would just run the ball all the time. Like, yeah. So I mean, I think that's probably going to be how well the Lions play against the run will probably be the definition of that game. Like, the other thing that I'm kind of hopeful about is that, you know, Bailey Zappi is, if he is indeed the quarterback and it's not Brian Hoyer, the Lions blitz more than anybody else in the entire NFL. And, you know, against a rookie QB who has seen 3 quarters of action, hopefully that's, you know, you get there a couple times, you know. Yeah. Maybe one of those is a fumble, you know, something like that. It's going to take something like that, I think, to tip the scales. So, yeah.
But so with a 48-45 game, obviously offense was unstoppable more or less for both teams, for sure for them because we didn't. Right. And for us because I think we punted twice the entire day. Yep. But that means to me that means there's two things going on there. Number one, offenses are clicking. Number two, defenses not so much. So there's got to be bright spots. Like our offense is a bright spot, and then there's not only there bright spots, there's also black holes of despair, also known as our defense. So let's talk about some bright spots real quick. There's good things that happen at a 40. I mean, you don't put up 45 points and go, gosh. I mean, you do because you lost, but like the whole game was terrible. No, I mean there was Hawkinson. He showed up. Did you know that we had a guy named Hawkinson that can catch the ball and run?
Well, I knew we had a guy named Hawkinson. Yeah, he had the best game of his career. PFF scored him remarkably high, like in the 90s, which is exceedingly rare for any player. So he had 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, bunch of catches. I don't think it would be fair to say like that's the TJ Hawkinson that we all hoped that we would see. Like, I don't want to put his standard to be like his best performance ever.
Right.
You know, and you and I were talking about this during the week. Like, if he did a third of that, like 60 yards and a touchdown every other or every third game, I would be thrilled. Like, that's Tyler Higbee. You know, that's CJ Uzama or whatever. You know, like that's that kind of player. And like, I think that he is that kind of guy with upside. He had a really great game. Josh Reynolds had an excellent game. I was exceedingly impressed with Josh Reynolds. Which I've never said before. He looked really, really good. Like, if Josh Reynolds is going to play like that, then he's worth keeping on the roster, at least on the depth chart. I was impressed with Tom Kennedy. I firmly believe that Tom Kennedy was the most impressive wide receiver in preseason. And to be honest, like I prefer the way that he plays and the route tree that they give him if St. Brown is going to be out. Like, I would not be upset because he's not going to make any money. Like, I would not be upset if he was St. Brown's primary backup. But, you know, I don't think the roster is maturing like a fine wine at this point. So what week do we have to get to for our defense to start playing? Well, I mean, I think that's a good question, Joey. And so I'm going to answer that while Mike's getting set up here. But so there's a couple of things that play into that, you know, and we're going to talk about these, I think, by themselves a little bit later. But the thing I keep telling myself is I don't expect this team, even with this schedule, to go out and just dominate teams. You know, the thing that I worry about for the Lions is that they always seem to be playing from behind. Like, when they are the ones who get on the board first, I feel like with Washington, they jumped out on Washington and then they were able to play from the lead, kind of set the tempo of the game, and the game felt like it was in their control. So I think that what's gonna help the offense is, like, if you win the toss, elect to receive, get the ball first. Yeah. Like, if the offense is the very clear strongest part of this team, play into it.
Yeah.
Like, don't
first helps.
Yeah. Don't defer to this. I mean, like, I would not say this for most teams, but like, don't defer to the second half. Get on the board first and try and set the tone of the entire game, because it might very easily be whoever has the ball last wins.
Yeah.
So, but like
in that race.
Yeah, like, I mean, no one on the defense is playing really well. Tracy Walker was playing well, so of course he's lost for the season. You know, I had hoped that Hutchinson would be. I mean, he's generating pressure. He's not getting home. So, like, I think that he's doing well. Well, I would want him to play better. Malcolm Rodriguez is playing very well, even as a rookie. And I know that the PFF grade is not going to show this for Jeff Okudah, but like, Jeff Okudah is lining up against number ones, and he's playing at like a yellow score is a starter level score.
Yep.
You are a starter in the NFL at that level.
And this was just for this game. So this is specifically the Seattle game. If we look at the other ones, he is in the green, which is a very good starter to, all pro or Pro Bowl type of quality.
Yeah. So like Jeff Okudah to me is playing well. Malcolm Rodriguez is playing well, but no one on the defensive line is playing well. Like even like Charles Harris here has got like a starter's score, that kind of thing. Like Lee McNeil had a good game, but like to me, this team cannot blitz as much as they are. They should be dropping 7 into coverage and not trying to, just trying to match up.
So just looking at the pass rush, right? I mean, there's a couple green. So we had a couple guys that did okay, that, did like a good starter. But
safety.
It's like, meh, they're average at best kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah, and then like on the coverage, Kirby Joseph actually he's a rookie this year, right? He was our draft.
He is. He was at pick 97 in the draft, but did he play 67 snaps in this game?
Correct.
So he is a true ball hawk. Like he is going to be like your center fielder. Like he is if you have a single high safety, that's who he is. And he is a developmental project. Like he is not the kind of guy that's going to come in and lock someone down or, be the Ed Reed of the secondary in his rookie season.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that he's getting some snaps. I was hoping they would be under different, like him outplaying Deshaun Elliott and Tracy Walker not being hurt. But he's out there. He played well this game. Unfortunately, it was in a loss. But I'm happy to see that he's contributing.
Yeah, so there were definitely some bright spots even on the defense. Rodriguez, played well again. He was the guy I believe that forced the fumble
on the kickoff or the punt.
Punt return fumble.
He punched it out. Good job, Malcolm. We gotta generate turnovers. That's one thing that's going to help this team more than anything is if they can generate turnovers. Like, I don't know how many takeaways we have through 4 games, but if it's 4, I'd be pretty surprised.
Yeah. And then I think most of the bright spots were on offense. Hawk came out like an elite, an elite tight end. The question is, can he do it a bunch of times? And even Funky mentions like Hawk gets used like Kelsey, and everyone loves him again. Go figure. Have we been using him wrong? Have we been having him do block too much and not run those kinds of routes? Because he looked damn good yesterday on Sunday.
So the thing that I think, I don't know, I'm not smart enough or know what's going on enough with football to watch the game and be like, oh, they're using him totally differently than they have been.
Yeah.
I don't know if the lack of the other, like, not having Chark or St. Brown out there opened up a different route tree for him.
Yeah.
Or what have you. If that is the case, then regardless of what bringing Chark and St. Brown back would look like, you need him to run more of those routes.
Yeah. Keep doing this, Ben Johnson. Say Ben Johnson is, I was going to ask, since I'm already talking about, I was going to ask about like, who do you think the MVP of the team is so far? And I think it's Ben Johnson, our offensive coordinator. We put up 45 points with practice squatters and like a team that couldn't put up points hardly at all last year. He starts, I think he was helping Campbell run, do the play calling and stuff at the end of last season. We turned things around, and he's just, we're the number 1 scoring team in the league. So like, to me, some of these guys have played really well. Amon-Ra St. Brown's playing great. Swift's been playing great. Even Jamal Williams is playing really well. Ben Johnson is the most important. He has been the most influential person on our team so far in the first 4 games.
Yeah, and if I had to give it to a player, I'm gonna give it to Jared Goff. I am not a Goff fan. Like he's super nice. His fiance is incredibly attractive. Congratulations, Jared. My complaints about Jared Goff are basically threefold. Well, I'm going to go with 2. Number 1, like if you compare what he's done in each of these games he's going to come out slightly ahead compared to the other quarterbacks that he's been up against. But those quarterbacks are Jalen Hurts, not Christian. Who's Minnesota? Kirk Cousins. Carson Wentz, the ghost of Carson Wentz, and Geno Smith. Now, none of those guys are rookies. They're established NFL players, right? Carson Wentz might be on the tail end of his career, to be honest, like given the way that he's playing. And Geno Smith was a backup until this season when he beat out Drew Lock, to be Seattle's starter. Good call. I'm going to shout out to our fellow podcast, Roar the Lions UK. Matt Turner over there called that Geno Smith would win the job. He did. Nice. And of course, Jalen Hurts. Now, here's my problem with the disparity in quarterback play in these first 4 games between Jared Goff and these quarterbacks. I don't know what Carson Wentz is making this year. It's probably in the $20 million, somewhere in there. Jalen Hurts is making 1.6. Geno Smith is making 3.4 or something close to that. And of course, Kirk Cousins is making like 31 million guaranteed or something ridiculous, right? So let's take a peep here. His 2022 number is 28 million. So in the games that we have played, 2 quarterbacks have been paid pretty much like Jared Goff, right? And the other 2 are vastly less in the way of their salary, right?
Right.
And so Jared Goff has played well in these 4, at least produced a lot of stats in these 4 games, right? And so if you can see his offensive rating, I'm pointing at my screen and no one can see it, but he is like warming up. Like that's what I would say if I was looking at that. Like that's his overall grade from PFF, and he is improving every week, right? So if that trend continues on a weekly basis and he continues to improve that score and his stats remain high, then I think that he will start to his play will be the difference between what we're seeing against opposing quarterbacks, and he will finally start being the difference between what the Lions can bring to this position and what their opponents can bring to this position. My complaint against Jared Goff is if those teams found quarterbacks where they're paying somewhere between 1.6 and 3.5 million dollars to get effectively the same production, we should do that too. Because you can take the $28 million difference and invest it in the defense, and not just sit on it, but go out and acquire a better caliber of players or better depth or anything else that's going to help this team, or re-sign guys or right. That's my feeling on Jared Goff. Now, if Jared Goff gets to, scoring in the 80s or whatever, and he does that throughout the most of the season, and the Lions are winning games, I'll give Jared Goff credit for playing well and being the difference maker. But I just don't feel that he. I mean, we are 1-3, So stats in the world are.
He led an offense that put up 45 points. And I've said this about Stafford a few times in the past, where our playoff game against New Orleans, where he puts up 28 points in the playoffs, but we lose 42-28. I'm like, you put up 28 points in the playoffs, you did your part, right? So he did his part leading the offense to 45 points. It's not his fault. Our defense is essentially on our way to being even more historically bad.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. Whether it's Matthew Stafford or Jared Goff, and I don't care about the Matthew Stafford arguments. He's not a Lion anymore.
Sure, no, I'm just saying I'd use that same. I'm just saying I'm being consistent.
Right.
With that.
I'm with you. The reason why it's not Jared Goff's fault can't just always be the defense is bad. That's a defensive problem. Did Jared Goff do his job? Sure. But quarterbacks, whether it's fair or unfair, are going to be graded primarily on wins and losses. Yeah. And I don't care that Jared Goff threw for almost 400 yards in a loss.
Yeah.
lots of bad quarterbacks throw for a lot of yards and losses.
Yeah, I'm just saying I don't think. I mean, this loss wasn't on him. That we can point to the fact that he opened the second half with a pick six and ruined momentum from the score right at the end, and not only gave them that momentum back, but also let them extend the lead. Mm-hmm. And that's the margin. That's more than the margin of victory. So therefore, it's his fault. And so it's pretty easy to do that kind of thing. But your defense gave up 41 points.
Sure.
So
they would have given up 34 points if he hadn't thrown that pick six. And like when he was asked about it, he was like, "That's on me.
Yep.
That ball was in the wrong spot. I made a mistake."
Yep.
So he took credit for that.
Yep.
He took credit for it. And so I'm saying like, okay, that's fine. So like I do believe that play was on him.
Yeah.
You know,
and sure was. He threw it late. He threw it with no zip. He threw it behind the wide receiver, right. And the defender made a good play. But if he had seen it earlier, threw it with just a little bit more zip, and didn't throw it behind the guy, like any one of those threes, and it's not a pick six. Those were all things that he could control. So it's 100% on him. And it's great that he's taking ownership of it. I just don't want it. I don't think that he lost the game with that throw. There was an entire half to play, and our defense was an abysmal dumpster fire.
So I would agree with you if it wasn't the difference in the game, but unfortunately it was the difference in the game. And like, this is now two times. The first one wasn't, I would consider to be his fault since it was deflected and Hawkinson and him weren't on the same page.
Yeah.
And it was a tip ball that got picked off and returned against Philadelphia. But these are two pick sixes that were thrown in two games that we lost. And it was the difference of the margin of victory. And, you know, one of them is squarely on his shoulders.
Yes. No, I totally get that.
You know, and if those 14 points off turnovers had not been, I mean, the defense didn't give those up.
Yeah.
I mean, the defense didn't give up
41.
It goes on the scoreboard, so they get credit for it or whatever, right? But like they weren't on the field when the Seahawks scored.
What's up, One Pride? Welcome, buddy.
Nice.
So we had bright spots. Putting up 45 points is a bright spot. Hawkinson breaking out and finally doing the things that he needs to do to earn a second contract is a bright spot. Rodrigo continuing to shine. I think he's the 16th rated linebacker in the league right now.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Great job, Rodrigo. But we had some bright spots. And then we've got the black holes of despair, which is our defense. And then we kind of talked a little bit about that. We can't get off the field on third downs.
And this was another example.
Every single time they were 100% on. I think they went on fourth down one time, but
they were. I got the stats because I brought them up because I knew we were going to talk about it. They were 4 out of 10 on third down, so 40% on third down.
Okay.
3 for 3 on fourth downs.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
we do have this black hole of despair called our defense. What are your thoughts on Aaron Glenn? Because that's the big thing right now. Is he's got to go. He's on the hot seat.
So stupid.
This is embarrassing, which it is. It's all Aaron Glenn's fault. Where do you fall on all that?
I don't think it's Aaron Glenn's fault. I think that what I mean, what was the difference in this defense last year from what it is this year? They have Malcolm Rodriguez starting, they have Aiden Hutchinson playing, and there's one or two additions since then, but like there's a lot of players who are hurt, and he is a young coach for being a defensive coordinator.
Yep.
And so I've been critical of some of the decisions that Dan Campbell's made, and like I do think that the team would benefit from an adaptive scheme, like not blitzing at 40% of the time and like playing a little bit more zone as opposed to just man coverage. And like they do not have the horses to play man, like right currently through week 4, Amani Araraway is rated by PFF as the worst cornerback in the NFL. And
His
Mike
last 2
Hughes
weeks certainly hasn't helped overall.
He's been truly. I'm wondering if he's not healthy. Like that's like I don't understand how he's the difference in the player from last year to this year. I knew he was hurt, but I'm wondering if maybe he's not completely healthy because
look at that.
And then Mike Hughes, who we signed in the offseason, is
he's been
also not playing well, and like, so one pride in the chat here has been like, hey, don't you think that maybe we need to fix the secondary? And like, yup. So like, I was looking at the secondary next year, and I sent you this through our Discord. Our next year, our DBs that are our cornerbacks under contract are Jeff Okudah, Chase Lucas, and Jerry Jacobs.
Okay,
and that's it. 3 guys.
So we gotta fill that room.
One pride, is Luke doing his stream right now? I do not understand why he has gone to doing it at exactly the same time that we are doing our podcast when we do it every week.
What a punk.
I'm not claiming a conspiracy here. I'm just saying, like, it does seem to be odd that Tuesdays at 7 seem to be his new time.
Yeah. That's all right.
But
we got a good crew that is always comes over, so we appreciate you all here.
We do. We love our guys. But do I think that he needs to go? That is correct. Sure. God damn it. I don't think that. So like, I don't know what. So here's the thing to me. Like, and I was thinking about this. Like, there are people that are like, oh, it's the hot seat for Aaron Glenn and Dan Campbell, and I'm like, okay. So are those people saying that then no coach is the answer to making these guys play better? So I don't think that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's, if you don't have a defensive coordinator, you're not going to play any better. You have no general of your army, right? So like, no one telling you what to do. But tell me who the fix is. Don't tell me that just firing some guy is the problem. Come at me with like, and then you need to go hire Brent Venables, or you need to hire this guy that's on the sidelines, or
Raheem Morris,
or somebody, like, give me a name and tell me why that guy is going to fix the problem, because that's what Sheila Ford Hamp and Brad Holmes have to do when it comes to hiring.
Yeah.
The next
you can't just fire them and not replace them. So the replacements better be better than who you just got rid of.
So
is that person going to be any better when you have talent that does this? Like, we're bereft of talent on the defensive side of the ball. We're still shedding bad contracts.
Yes, we have $25 million in dead cap money right now.
Yes.
Can you imagine if we had no dead cap money, or like $5 million in dead cap money, and you could spend $20 million to make this defense better?
Right.
That would be cool.
It's a process, and we've only got essentially 2 draft classes, which he's hit on a lot of people. So like, Holmes is doing well, but we were in such bad shape.
Yeah, this is why the rebuild is not done, right? Is because you signed Benito Jones and Isaiah Buggs, in the preseason, and they're playing. And like Campbell said, I think today, that Demetrius Taylor is going to start. So who was playing next to McNeil? That guy lost his job.
Like, some of the folks are in saying in the chat about like, hey, what if Glenn's defense gets cooked again against the Pats? We might have limited talent on the defensive side of the ball, but that doesn't let them off the hook.
Yes, it does.
With adjustments that weren't made and that kind of stuff. And I get all of those points, but I think you can only do so much with what you've got.
So if they start firing coaches, I mean, this is exactly what happened with Matthew Stafford when in his term with offensive coordinators. Like, he was here for 12 years. He had like 7 offensive coordinators. That's stupid.
Yeah.
That's stupid. Like, that's dumb to do. Like, good teams in the NFL have continuity. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with Aaron Glenn. right? The problems that this team are facing is that there are a bunch of injuries, a lot of them on the defensive side.
Yep.
Okay, so we need those guys to get healthy. That takes time. And like Aaron Glenn is in year 2 of being a defensive coordinator. Yeah, he's going to make mistakes. Dan Campbell's going to make mistakes. The only person that's not catching heat right now is Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson was able to like ease into, yeah, good teams do have success in the W column. This is not a good team.
Yeah.
This is a rebuilding.
A 3-win team last year.
Right. This is a bad team that's getting better, right? Like it took until week 13 last season to get our first win. You got it in week 3, what was it? Week 2, week 3?
Week 2, I think.
This year. Okay, neat. Like that's great. I'm happy about that. Like now we have more options every week to get our second win. And like maybe it is Josh Paschal coming back and like he is a difference maker. Like the games have been so close that like I could see one player playing well on the defensive line being a pretty big impact. Yeah. But like that doesn't change the fact that Amani Araraway has been really bad. It doesn't change the fact that Tracy Walker got hurt or that people hate Alex Anzalone.
Right.
Like it's probably his last year on the team as well. But like, Chris Board is primarily a special teamer and he's played pretty well. But like, yeah, I mean, A6 brings up a good point, and so like they just don't have the talent there yet. And like, not only is that a problem, but like the game is legislated for offenses to be successful.
Yeah.
And like I've been harping on this team all season, like you have to cut down on like the penalties and like the mistakes that you have 100% control of. So like I have in my notes here about the game one sequence here. Okay. So like in one sequence in like the second quarter, they did something like a penalty, like a false start on offense. They ran the ball for no gain. Then the ball was dropped on a pick that was a turnover-worthy play, and they got bailed out on a pass interference call. Like that's the kind of thing that, doesn't happen all the time. Like you don't get a first down because someone commits pass interference against you on every sequence.
Right.
So you gotta
Oruwariye and then just throw it.
So like don't commit a false start, and like, and then when run the ball behind Penei Sewell, who's playing absolutely like a stellar right tackle, and like trying and put yourself in like manageable down and distance. And like, I know I'm talking about the offense who scored all these points, but like, these are things you can do to control the game,
Throw
and
the
like,
ball to the sticks on 3rd and 5. Don't throw it to 2 yards to a guy that's covered like a wet blanket, because that doesn't do anybody any good.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that drive me nuts.
And everyone, I mean, like, and I think everyone makes a good point when they point out the fact that the defense is letting this team down.
It is. Yeah.
However, like that doesn't necessarily mean that the answer for winning football games 100% rests in the defense.
Yeah.
It's certainly going to help, right? But, and if they had some cap room, maybe they could go out and sign a linebacker or add secondary depth or who knows what, right? But they don't, and so this is the thing that I was kind of worried about, was that this kind of injury attrition, which every team has to some degree, wears you down. And it just so happens that the Lions had a lot more than normal to start the season. And so like, I'm still hopeful that like when Jerry Jacobs comes back, the play in the secondary gets a little bit better. And when Josh Paschal gets back, like the play on the defensive line will get a little bit better, and then like, if he can do one thing, maybe that opens up something for Charles Harris or, who knows, right?
Maybe Michael Brocker has a little bit of help in there because he hasn't done. I mean, he's been that free agent guy that hasn't done a whole lot.
Yeah, in my opinion, Michael Brockers is on the team, like, to offer some kind of like, and this is how you go about your week, and like he's supposed to be like the father figure for a lot of these.
Room. Yeah,
a lot. I mean, the Lions have one of the youngest rosters in the NFL.
Yeah, I think it is the youngest.
I mean, it's right near the top. I mean, I've said before, like, it's only going to keep getting younger, and so, this team has a multitude of things that they can fix moving forward, and like, these are still lessons. Like, they're still going out there and they're playing hard. They're still going out there and competing. They're still in all of these things except the win have been a 1-score game, to be honest, like, some just blind luck might be the difference between this team getting a win and a loss, and like, you always want to be in control of your own destiny, and that kind of thing. But like, I think that there is no easy answer to say, this is what the defense needs to do to get better. They're hurt. They need to get players back.
Yeah.
That's what the solution is going to be for this year. So if you fire AG, that to me is just like, that is a PR move.
Yeah. And that's not what the team needs.
To get people to stop complaining.
Yeah.
And that is not sufficient, in my opinion, to make a move like that. He's a good coach. Everyone raved about him, and then expectations were super high. This is going to be a 9, 10, 11 win season for us because we have the 5th easiest schedule in the NFL, right? And everyone's expecting us to come out of the gate, 4 or 5 weeks into the season with a couple of wins. And, we would have them. We're so close. And all of these losses, right? Like, and
Zeka?
I don't know. Did he give up a touchdown? I don't know who it was against. He played pretty well, I thought. But they give up a lot of touchdowns. So,
yeah. Could have been or 6 of them.
I mean, considering that all the people that gave up touchdowns on the Lions on Sunday, like, he could still have played the best out of all of those guys, or most of them at least. So, I mean, I'm willing to look at the information and like reassess here a little bit, but like, he's a rookie. Aiden's a rookie. I mean, like, this last week you had 3 rookies start.
Yeah. It does list 1 touchdown. I'm not sure which one. And he might have been paired with somebody on another touchdown as well or something.
Yeah. We are not making excuses for them. We're trying to actually figure out how to fix it. Like, I think it is easy to say, the defense is just historically bad.
Yeah.
Okay. There's lots of good offenses in the NFL. I don't give a shit if we lose by 1 point or 50 points. It's a loss. Like, that's how I approach the game. So, I mean, like, I also don't care if you win by 1 point or 100 points. So I don't care that the offense is historically good either.
It does feel better when you win by 100.
Sure. Yeah, I completely agree. But it's about a feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about having the number 1 offense in the NFL if you're 1-3.
Right.
I'd rather be 4-0 with the 17th best offense in the NFL.
Yeah, and Asics, like, he's spot on. You can't hold the current staff and players responsible for the failures of our previous coaches and players.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what we're doing. We're still recovering from that.
You can make the case that it's an expansion team.
Yep, we're shedding bad decisions from previous regime. It's going to happen. That's why Dan Campbell got a 5-year contract.
Right.
Or no, he actually had a 6-year contract.
And Holmes got a
5-year contract because they know this is not going to be something that we're going to do in 2 years. It's not going to be all right. At the end of the 2nd year, if you don't show me something, you're on the hot seat and maybe you're gone the 3rd.
Like, is this okay? So, like, they're 1-3. Have they not shown progress? Do you guys not believe that they have shown progress? Is not having the number 1 offense in the NFL progress with this group of guys?
So
who is the dominant wide receiver?
A ton more on offense, right?
I mean, come on. I mean, like, having the offense that has scored the most points in the NFL, even though you're 1-3, that's not progress. Of course, it's progress.
Yeah. So the D did keep us in some games with less talent, but we were also, I think, we were less injured on the defensive side of the ball last year. And I think we got some pretty key people out right now.
And the guys play better.
When we get there, like Drew mentioned maybe 10 minutes ago about like, hey, that we're so close to having maybe one person or two people being enough of a difference to make some of those stops on third down, to keep some of those points off the board. So it'll be interesting to see what it looks like over the next couple of weeks, and after the bye week when some of our guys come back.
Yeah, like I mean, their special teams have played well, and like the next thing that I'm going to hear is that like, oh well, they missed some field goals and some extra points, and okay, yeah, that's true. But like the coverage units have been excellent.
Yes,
and so like
I've seen a flag on them all season.
Right. I mean, like
phenomenal.
They have
played a kicker.
Yeah, PFF has them rated as something like the third best offense and like the eighth best special teams unit in the league, and like the defense is just right at the bottom, and that's. But like I also think that if it's like, so the Lions, just like they can't convert on third downs, they're letting their opponents convert on third downs a ton, and like to me, this is the teams are running all over them, and like I would if I'm Aaron Glenn, right?
Yep.
AG. I should just say AG.
AG.
I would basically come out and play 8 in the box and been like, well, okay, just prove you can beat us by throwing it. Yeah. And they might. Teams might.
Yeah.
But don't let them beat you by running it.
Yeah. I knew A6 was. I was going to mention it if he hadn't. I'll because he messaged me on Facebook, and I'm like, bring it up. Kickalicious. I mean, we got to do something. Our kickers are terrible. Bring them in. Why not? Could be any worse.
Yes, it can. I mean, they could miss more. I mean, they could miss all of them. So, like, here's my thing, right? Like, if a 35-yard field goal or an extra point or whatever is worth 1 point, go for a 2-point conversion is from 2 yards away.
Yeah.
So go for 2.
Yeah.
If you like going for it so much on fourth down, go for put 2-point conversions up there. Yeah, I saw that. Eberle got waived today. So that either means that Seibert's getting healthy and can kick and can go, or they're going to bring in another
bringing somebody else in because he's not an answer even on a part-time.
So I mean, like, I think that there's some choices here. I mean, like go for 2, like change the game. Like if you're if you score first, go for 2 and make it a 2-score game or whatever, or like force them to go for 2 and fuck up, and have 6 points on the board or whatever, or have them miss an extra point. Like,
I mean, if you miss a 2-point conversion, you miss an extra point, it's the same 6 points you're at.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Right. Exactly. Like, I mean, like if you're not confident in the kicker, try and get 1 additional point, like I'm not in love with that idea in the long term, but like while you're going through this injury riddled first third of the season, like try it out. It's fine.
Yep.
If you're willing to throw a pass, have your punter throw a pass to a gunner to convert on fourth down on your side of the field, like go for 2 points. I mean, like,
and to be honest, I think Fox is the guy that he was a high school quarterback, which is one of the reasons why he has done so well.
Edges. Yeah.
So, I mean, if he's holding the ball on the extra points, fake that. Why not?
Sure.
Although I'd rather have them do that from the 2-yard line than that far back.
Sure.
But so there was something else that you sent me that I thought was kind of a bright spot.
Mm-hmm.
And that is expected versus actual yards per carry. And I was looking in here for the Lions, and I realized he's way up here. He is killing it.
Yeah, so like this stat is basically like based off of the plays that you run.
Yeah.
The NFL has shown us that these plays on average generate X yards on average, right? Or whatever.
4.5.
Yep. And so there DeAndre Swift is way off by himself at the top of the chart, just like sitting on his throne, because like they have taken, and this is the thing that Ben Johnson has gotten a lot of praise for, is like they are creating in their running game excellent matchups.
Yeah.
And they are absolutely, and DeAndre Swift is good enough. And I think Jamal Williams is good enough, as he exemplified by his 100-yard 2-touchdown performance last week, that if you give a decent enough running back this kind of scheme, this kind of blocking, remember, we're down our 2 starting guards.
Yeah.
They can generate absolutely crazy production based off of like outthinking and out executing your opponent. And DeAndre Swift is living off it this year.
So A6 asks if the discrepancy between expected yards between him and Swift, we think that's strictly due to his short yardage usage. And I don't think so. I think the biggest thing is there were a couple plays where he did a shake and bake, made a guy miss, and blew by and got some huge expected yards, which bumps up your average. Like if you take the like maybe 2 anomalous type of runs, he's probably back down in this range near everybody else, right? But hey, if we're gonna take away his anomalous stuff, we need to also take Rashad Penny's and Cordero Patterson and everybody else there too, and do that. But yeah, I don't think it's anything other than a couple anomalous things that really pumped up that average. He's still great. Like I think he would still be in this area.
Yeah. He would still be among the lead leaders for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like what we're seeing in this graph is that like he took a play that was supposed to net you like 4 or 5 yards and turned it into a 20 plus,
Yeah.
Like he's the Lions, and this, I think this graph plays into it, what I'm going to say next, like have been living off of big plays, right? And they're largely been big plays in their running game as opposed to their passing game.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that. I think that's great. Like if you can generate explosive big plays in your running game, it's going to open up your passing game for you. Now, I think that they should still pass to run in particular, especially when you have Chark and St. Brown back. But
and a good running back that can catch the pass too.
Yeah, Williams did have a couple of drops that just drove me nuts. Like if this team has something like 11 or 12 drops already through 4 games, maybe more. And like if you had 2/3 of those, I think that some of these games look different. So I'm I think that the team is very promising. It's just that like they're unhealthy, and like this is the difference. Like when you have players who are less talented, whether that's because of like poor management, which they have had for years, or because of injury, which they've randomly had, right? Like, so your backups are playing. Like Jamal Williams, as much as everyone loves Jamal Williams, is a backup. Your 2 guards, Skipper, he's a great story or whatever. And Evan Brown played this last week at, I think, right guard. And like, but they are backups, and when you don't have your guys that are just that little bit better out there doing some of this exact same stuff, you lose on the margins, like even Jamal Williams ripped off a 50-yard touchdown run. I didn't think he could do it. Like if you said, what kind of play would you have where Jamal Williams outruns everybody on a 50-yard score? I've been like a draw play where everybody is running one direction and he just gets by everybody immediately and they have to turn around and catch up to him. Like, but like good for him. Like he's taking this opportunity and producing, like
I would hit on those guys. I mean, I think he's kind of the heart and soul, emotional kind of leader and the mentor for some of the younger guys. And he's hitting on that. Like he's doing well on that. He's kind of filling in on the backup side of things too. Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. I like Corey Reynolds. Just fine. Like he's a nice player. And like he's a good story on Hard Knocks or what have you. But like Craig Reynolds, I cannot stop calling him Corey. I do not know what's wrong with me. Craig Reynolds is he's a nice third option. And so like they have some depth here. And like the running game is not as explosive, but I mean, so coming into this season, right? Like what is one of the favorite stats that Lions fans like to say?
how many games has it been since you've had a 100-yard runner? And like, I think you've had them 2 games this year. They just aren't wins.
Yeah.
You know, and so like that, I mean, like these are the things that no one's going to like care about, right? But like you are reversing these trends. You know, you are reversing the like, okay, the Lions are not talented and like they have the 20th best quarterback in the NFL. So like, but they have right. So like worse than what I was going to give them some credit. That's fine. But like, but they're the number 1 scoring offense through 4 weeks with no sign of that stopping.
Yeah.
You know, and like, okay, the Lions have gone, what was it, 38, 41 games without a 100-yard rusher. Okay, this year we have 2 of them already.
Yep.
You know, and so like there has been a lack of that kind of progress on the defense. And I firmly believe that you will never see any unit 100% healthy. But like, you know, and even if Ararage and Hughes were just playing like replacement level starters, you know, like at that league average, that's like, if you're below this line, you need someone to take your job. And if you're at this line or above, you're kind of the normal NFL player at this position. Guys, Puerto Rico is a protectorate and a part of the state. All of those people are American citizens. We don't need to annex them. They're already a part. They're just not a state. Like every 4 years or whatever or every 6 years, they have a referendum come up in their country to join America as a state. And we're the ones that prevent them from doing that. Right. So
we have
like
a whole new flag, Drew. Come on.
Well, I mean, like, I don't care. Like, we have a number of protectorates. We have like Guam, American Samoa Protectorate, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and there's one more out there that I always forget. Oh, DC. You know, like you could make these people into states, and then they would have representation in Congress, but we don't do that.
Yeah.
So, it's from the Little Giants movie. I can't remember that one. Sorry, it's been a minute. You know, so like I think that this team is headed in the right direction, even with its current personnel. I think that they are. I mean, they have 1 win. We could have 4 wins if like the ball had bounced one way or the other in each of those games. It just didn't happen, you know. So like, I'm kind of confident about going into New England and them playing a rookie quarterback. You know, like who knows? You know, like it's good. I mean. And then going into the bye week and coming out, and then you have Dallas. I mean, it looks like Dak will be back, but like since they've won so many games with Cooper Rush.
So you're saying we got a shot in Dallas then?
I think there's a shot in Dallas too. I mean, like
if Dak's back, they're going to get rid of their 4-0 starter.
Do you know that they pay him $49 million? His cap hit is $49 million next year. Dak Prescott.
That's not going to hurt them at all, is it?
They're paying him 49 and like Elliott like 18 or 19 million.
Yeah.
So that's like what, $67 million for those 2 players. I just threw up in my mouth. So, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, like I thought they played all right, you know, on one half of the ball. I mean, at least it wasn't like they were slow out of the gate and had to catch up in the second half or vice versa, you know, on offense. Like at least that issue kind of got fixed a little bit. But like, I just think that it's like, you know, turn this knob a little bit this way, move this dial up a little bit over here, and like you're really close. I mean, so I just think that this team is right there, and this might be the kind of scenario where once they do it once, that's it, you know, and the floodgates are open. So
we'll say one of the things that we want to talk about is passer rating, what that means, and why we're more PFF fans than some of the traditional stuff. But
Funky, turn your volume down, man.
But there's something else that we have to do first, Drew.
What's that? Oh, this is the surprise.
We have to go to our mailbag.
Did we get an email?
We have an email.
Oh, my God.
D, thank you for being the first official email.
Who's Joey?
Joey D. He's a Joey D. Bonesaw in the chat.
Joey D. Boy, Joey you came D. through. Oh,
yeah.
All right, great. So
He says, "Hi, love the show. Going to start with an interesting stat about Goff and then a couple questions. So Goff is off to the best start Lions quarterbacks had since 2011. Stafford 2011. Yeah. And he kind of shows the stats. So Stafford was 100 for 161, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 picks. Goff just shy of that. Same number of touchdowns and picks, about 100 yards short, right? So he says it's obvious the defense is a problem. We've already kind of talked about that. Where do we start to fix that? Are there free agents available this offseason? Do we look at the draft, which pieces to start with? So we'll start with those couple, and then he's got a couple other questions here as well. So what are your thoughts? Like, where do we start to fix the defense? Do we go free agent? Do we go draft? And if free agent, which ones? If draft, where do we fall?
Sure. So I'm so excited. I'm literally almost like shaking. I'm so excited. Joey, thank you so much for doing this. So I've looked into some of these questions, and I'm glad that I get a chance to talk about them. So let's start. Defense is a problem. Where do you start? You get different players. Number one thing, you get better, more talented players, like the coaching staff. And we saw on Hard Knocks, they're bringing the work ethic, the blue collar work ethic idea to the team. Now you need to add blue chip talent to that, right? And I'm just going to keep harping on this kind of motto. So you need to improve the quality of talent on defense, all 3 levels. Okay, nothing's off limits. So where do you do that? The first opportunity you're going to have to do that is in the draft, and then you're going to, I guess technically you're going to start in free agency. So I kind of made a list of some guys that, hey, Crimson. I made a list of some guys that I think would be good additions to this team, or at least like contributors to this team for like a relatively cheap price tag. So there's 4 players that I'd like to talk about. There's Jesse Bates, safety from Cincinnati, and he would be a pretty pricey addition to this team. The only reason I would consider Jesse Bates now is because of Tracy Walker's injury. So he has an Achilles. Hopefully he comes back quick. He's relatively young. I think he's like 24 or 25 years old. Jesse Bates is a top 8 to 10 safety in the NFL. And I think that if you put him back there, even without Tracy Walker in the lineup while he's recovering, he'd be a stark difference playing. So depending on what you would sign, Dream is dead, Crimson, sorry. I think if you put him back there, you'd see a difference. At linebacker, I think this is a position in the NFL where you just save money and you try and find a guy who can outperform what you're paying him. So there's 2 things I would do here at linebacker. I would either sign a guy like, and don't hate me because I'm a Michigan fan, Devin Bush, from if he's let go by the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the reason I say that is historically he is at least a linebacker with speed. He can move sideline to sideline, and that is something that this team is desperate for, is some lateral speed. He maybe coming from Pittsburgh to Aaron Glenn's system.
Nice.
Would be a benefit, like putting him in a different situation might be good, something where he can just kind of roam around. That's what he did a lot at Michigan. He was pretty good in that role. I don't know enough about defensive schemes to say that's what Pittsburgh's asking him to do. And then putting him next to another athletic linebacker like Rodriguez might be what you need, and he probably would be relatively cheap. So I would look at that. I'm only talking about off-ball linebackers, not pass rushers. And then no. Do not tell me Roquan Smith. That's not funny. So
I think it's hilarious.
It's not funny at all. He is terrible in run support, and that's what everybody wants, right? Like he bites on play action way too often. He accumulates a lot of tackles because he's extremely athletic.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks that he's great because he gets a lot of tackles, but like he's fundamentally doesn't play the game very well, in my opinion. So I would.
We can move on to somebody else.
Yeah. I would look for a linebacker, a cheap linebacker to replace Anzalone because his contract's up after the end of this year. Someone like a Devin Bush or someone who might need a change of scenery, that kind of guy. Like a Van Der Esch, yeah, like that would be. He's had some ups and downs in Dallas, and like they have drafted or signed a lot of linebackers, enough to the point where it's like you might have to move Parsons to edge permanently just because you have so many of those guys. So I would look at like someone like a Van Der Esch or a Bush to pair with Rodriguez. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I think you need an additional, or on the defensive line, you need an additional pass rusher to go with Hutchinson. So like if Hutchinson's going to get this attention and get double teamed at the rate that he's getting double teamed and that kind of thing, then you need someone who can take advantage of that somewhere along the line. So this is what I would do. If you go into the draft and you get like a D tackle, like depending on where they draft, if it's like a Jalen Carter, which would be my hope and wish, but he's probably gone before we pick, or Brian Breesy from Clemson, or even like a run stuffer like Siaki Ika from Baylor. Like those guys, I think would allow them to get better. And that's one of their weaker positions is defensive tackle. Like I'm not currently thinking about Onwuzurike until I learn more about his back. If you're going to go into free agency, Marcus Davenport from the Saints is going to be a free agent. Now he will probably command a pretty big contract. And I don't know that the Saints can continue to push money into the future and sign a guy to a max deal. So you might see someone in their prime at a prime position make it to the open market. So, and then the Lions might have the ability to make enough moves to sign a player like him. If that's not going to work out, then I would look at like a free agent, like a Poona Ford, defensive tackle from Seattle, who is primarily a run stuffer, but can get to the quarterback as well. That's where I would start. And so let's see what some of your other questions. Do we look to the draft? Which pieces do you start with? Yeah. So Crimson just said Noah Sewell from Georgia is like he's kind of like a quicker pass rusher. So he might be a good complement to Hutch. So Hutch is going to win with like moves and power and a motor. And if you pair him with a guy that's like a dynamic bender and who's got an elite first step, I think that you might see pockets really start to get compressed from this team in 2023. So like the Lions are going to have their pick, the Rams pick, and a pick pretty early in the second round. And I would be looking at something like, so like right now they're picking like 11th. I know I said that Tankathon has them at 8th pick right now. So I'd be looking at somebody like Keely Ringo, not Sewell. Are you talking about Noah or are you talking about Penny? No, I'm not. We're not drafting Noah Sewell in the first round. Sorry. I would be looking at somebody like Miles Murphy, an edge rusher from Clemson. I would be looking at somebody like Keely Ringo, cornerback from Georgia. And then later in the first round, I would be looking at somebody like Joey Porter, cornerback from Penn State, Christian Gonzalez, cornerback from Oregon, or Noah, not a Noah Sewell. Who did Crimson say? No, he said Noah Sewell. I want Nolan Smith. That's who I was thinking, the edge rusher from Georgia. So like somebody like that. And then I think that you start to fit those pieces in. And I'm working on a thing that I wanted to show you guys where I take the 2023 roster where we have guaranteed contracts there and start to fit in rookies on both sides of the ball when we do our mock drafts, just kind of see what it would look like. And like, if you cut Michael Brockers after the season and Khalif Raymond, that pays for your whole rookie class. So that's where I would start. Why do the Lions have so many problems with injuries? We don't know. It's an excellent question. Like, here's one thing that I would say. The Rams, for all of the kind of like hiccups that they've had in roster construction and whatever, they don't have a ton of soft tissue injuries. And like, if you look at like the soft tissue injuries, like the hamstring pulls, the groin tears, that kind of stuff, like Melifonwu has had his problems are soft tissue injuries. Like, I would call the Rams or try and steal some of their like training staff to come over and implement whatever science or methodology they have that seems to limit that kind of stuff. Like if you didn't have groin pulls, hamstrings, ankle sprains, that kind of shit, it's like 4 more players that are back on the roster right now. So that's what I would do is like, of course, if I was owning a team, I would go so heavy into like scouting and like sports medicine that it's just, I would be spending millions upon millions of dollars, assuming I was a billionaire,
right,
or whatever.
I mean, if we're in fantasy land, we might as well make that thing too.
Right.
I don't think anybody's owning a sports team that's not a billionaire, right?
No, and not just like a couple of $1 billion. Yeah. Like we're getting close to 10 billion.
Yeah.
So Funky asks, like, he says he thinks Porter's on the fast track to the top 15. He's probably right. Like the numbers that Joey Porter are putting up at Penn State this year are like eye popping. Like this is like shutdown corner, like Ahmad Gardner kind of stuff. And what about Trenton Simpson? I think that he's an excellent linebacker. I just can't bring myself to draft a guy in the first round. Now, if it's something like there is a sweet spot in the draft for like what you pay a dude on the rookie scale based upon where you draft him, and that's like 25 through 40. If you can draft a dude 25 through 40, you are effectively paying them nothing. Like that's one of the benefits of having like Rodriguez is making. I don't know that he makes $1 million until his 4th year of his contract. Yeah. Same thing with St. Brown. Like they are effectively not making money for their rookie deals. And like that basically starts pick 25 and less, right? So if you can pick multiple times there, you're going to start saving on your cap. So like Trenton Simpson, an extremely versatile linebacker. Would he be a good addition to the Lions? Yeah, there's no argument against that. The only argument I have for not taking a Trenton Simpson is that you can save more on a player at a different position like a Joey Porter than you can at linebacker, which is one of the lowest paid off-ball linebackers, one of the lowest paid positions in the NFL. So like Eli Ricks, one pride says Eli Ricks, like he does exist, and I think that he would be an excellent Lion, and like he has the ability to play outside. He can play some safety, like, and as positions become more nebulous, I think that like having DBs that can do a little bit of everything is probably going to be great. The guy that I really like is Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M. He's a slot corner / safety kind of guy, and like, I mean, hopefully Tracy Walker comes back, but he could fill in and take over for Mike Hughes right off the bat.
So do you think a guy like Trenton Simpson is going to be available for our 2nd pick?
So there's a possibility.
22 range?
I think that there is a distinct possibility. Say that the Lions are picking no later than pick 40. So they'd have to finish the season.
I mean, our second first round pick. Or our second first round pick, our Rams pick.
Oh, I fully expect that no matter where the Rams end up, that one of either Trenton Simpson or Noah Sewell would be there at that 2nd pick.
And would you take a off-ball linebacker at that 2nd pick?
It depends on who you take with your 1st pick. So,
sure.
So to me, like, I very much feel like the way that the Lions have spent their money, they're all in on offense. They're like, the offense is one of the highest paid offenses in the NFL. So like, you need to flood this team with cheap ass contracts. So like, to be fair, if you're not going to get a Will Anderson, a CJ Stroud, or a Jalen Carter, where you're picking, I would want to trade down and try and accumulate more. I mean, like, there's still a bunch of holes that need fixing on this team. And like, the way to do that, the best way to do that is to give Brad Holmes more throws at the dartboard.
Yeah.
So like, let's say the Rams are pick comes in at like 24, right? So they make the playoffs, but they get bounced pretty early.
Right.
If Trenton Simpson is available at 24 and they took someone like Miles Murphy or Brian Breesy or somebody with their pick, or whatever, I would be hard pressed to come away from that draft and been like, they didn't get good players.
Yeah.
Clemson's a good program. They drafted players at positions where they're weak, and they're getting them on good deals. Like, there's not a lot to argue there. So I would say I would probably walk away from that draft, but I would say that the caveat there is you spend a first round pick on a linebacker. And as much as I think that they can help, I think that ultimately in the long run, that's bad because you could be finding a player at a more important position. And I think that cornerback on this team is just as bad as linebacker. You have one starter.
Especially since Oruwariye is taking a big step back. Like, if he just played at his last year level, or even take a small step forward, small step back, he took a giant leap backwards. He fell down the stairs.
Yeah. So Funky just said here, if the Lions were in a spot to take Porter and Simpson, that might be the ultimate compromise draft, right? If you had people like me on my side of how the Lions should invest their draft capital. No, he's a big dude. I mean, I think that if you pair Hutch with someone who can take advantage of the attention that they pay him, whatever that guy is, whether it's a power player or a really explosive, twitchy player, as long as they can take advantage, I don't care how they play.
Yeah.
So
it's all about production.
Typically I trend toward bigger players. I think that bigger players are better to have than smaller players. So I think you need speed at certain positions, corner, linebacker, wide receiver. And then outside of that, go maul some dude, that's kind of my thought.
Yeah.
So I also think they should draft a quarterback at some point. So if that's a fourth or fifth, sixth round pick, okay, this is a very deep quarterback class. There's not a ton of stars. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young might be stars, but
what about your boy Levis?
I think that if you were able to take Stroud or Young, you're getting a guy that can play for you in the first week. If you're taking anybody else, you're basically taking them on traits, right? And you're hoping that they live up to those traits. That's Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen was a toolsy traits quarterback.
Yeah.
And he was terrible for 2 years and then became elite. He went from to, oh my God, in 2 years.
Yeah.
So to me, I would be looking at guys like Devin Leary, Cam Ward, Jaron Hall, even not Spencer Rattler. Someone mentioned a QB, DJ Ugalele from Clemson.
Yeah.
If he declares and is something in the fourth round, I would, I would consider those guys. But whatever quarterback you take has to be able to do two things. They have to be mobile, and they have to be able to push the ball down the field.
Accurate.
Because DJ Chark and Jamison Williams, whenever they are both on the field together, are going to be able to take the top off of a defense.
I want to see Chark do that before I say that.
Well, he can do
doing it now, and he's getting zero separation.
Well,
he has got the least separation of every wide receiver on our team.
That's true, and but I think that they are asking him to do things that doesn't lead him to get separation. The way that St. Brown gets separation and the way that DJ Chark would get separation are completely different. DJ Chark is trying to blow by some dude.
Yeah.
And St. Brown is quick and shifty and runs routes. It's I'm here, now I'm there.
Yeah.
A Hunter Renfrow.
He's closer to a cup, right? Shifty, runs tight routes.
So here's my thing. If you are, let's say the season ends and you are not in a position where it's likely that you are going to be able to draft an elite quarterback in this class, my thing would be, let's trade down, accumulate more picks, and if you need to go up and get like a Caleb Williams from USC, or I don't even know who would be in the 24 class, someone like that, then you go and you're all in, right? But this rebuild is not going to be quote unquote finished until they make a change at quarterback. I think that Jared Goff is going to be the steward of what this team is until they end up moving on from him, because he cost $30 million, and like he's playing well. That's great, but like I still want to spend $20 to $25 million to improve the defense somehow. Like that's, if you took 25 million and you cut him, and like however you're gonna have to replace him with somebody, right? Like that's obvious. And if it's a rookie, fine. But if you're saving $25 million or $20 million, that's Jesse Bates. That's another starter on the defense. And like if that's the difference, then maybe you live with your quarterback throwing for 300 yards and not 375. And only scoring 42 points a game and not 45 points a game every week, But like it's about that balance. Yeah, you could do that. You could go back to a 3-4. And if they don't figure out this new aggressive attacking defensive line like they wanted to do this year, you might have to. Funky, I think that's a good point. So you want to talk about passer rating now?
Yeah, so I do want to, A6 mentioned, he said he feels like Shark has gotten some separation, but he was just missed. I do remember looking at some of these next-gen stats on the receiving side, and I don't see Chark on here at all. So that's probably week 4. Let's take a week 3. Did Chark even get a catch this week?
No, because he didn't play.
Oh, that's right. So the league average is about 2.91 yards of separation.
Can I interrupt real quickly?
Yes, absolutely.
Crimson, it's not a good point because the Lions have no money to spend. Like you can't spend money that you don't have. Like that's just so. Like it's not that Holmes is being cheap; he has to be cheap. Like right now they have $2.8 million in cap space under the cap. Like where is the money supposed to come from? And like next year, a ton of dudes have escalators in their contract. Like we go from paying like 2 or 3 guys like $10+ million this season to like 8 next year. And like just Ragnow's contract, he's getting almost a $10 million raise on his cap hit. Like Luke needs to do some more research in order to figure out, like, you can't spend. They couldn't spend. Like they had to restructure 2 people's contracts just to get under the cap this year. Like there's no money. That's the problem. You got $25 million in dead cap money. They're just trying to fix it. Like this is why he's wrong about like the rebuild being over so quickly, is because you can't purge your cap faster than this.
Yeah.
So like it's a process. Let him know.
Yeah, Flowers coming off the books will help. Getting rid of Vitae will help. Brockers, I think, was only on a 2-year contract. So
you save 10. If they cut him after the season, they save $10 million.
$10 million.
Million.
Yes.
Dollars.
So
go ahead.
So back to Chark. The league average is just under 3 yards separation.
Mm-hmm.
Chark is at 1.61.
Yes.
That was week 3. You go to week 2, and it is.
This is by week.
This is you can do it on a per week basis.
Neat.
And if we take a look at week 2, he was even worse at 1.24.
Oh, there I see. Okay, see.
Yeah, St. Brown was average. Basically, everybody else was more or less average on separation. Samuel, though, huge. Jahan Dotson, huge. Like they got a lot of separation. Why? Our quarterbacks are bad. That was the game that That was not the game. Yeah, that was the game that Oruwariye played so poorly.
Yeah, where's McLaurin? Yeah, there's McLaurin, and he had Okuda on him the whole game.
1.74.
Right.
But like Chark is sitting there at 1.24. He is just, I don't know if we are not sending him deep and he doesn't have the ability, or that he's not being used in that whole like get down the field. Hey, look at it. He's also the least here for our team. Less than 2. Well, Raymond was 100th of a yard less.
I don't know that I want to throw Khalil. He's the 4th wide receiver right now.
But like Chark should not. He should be with the speed that he's supposed to have. Should be at least at the league average, and he is well under that. So until I see it, I don't believe it.
I guess what I would say, Mike, is without knowing like his route tree and like what they're asking him to run, like I don't know that I really want to like put it all on the player. So when it comes to like head scratchers, like what's the guy in LA that they signed from Chicago? The wide receiver?
Allen Robinson.
Yeah, like what is Allen Robinson just a different version of Kenny Golladay? Like what happened to Kenny Golladay? Like
no idea.
So
Drew, what happened, buddy? We lost him. Well, that's a bummer. Wait. And he's back.
I hit a wrong button. Sorry.
No
so, without knowing like what they're asking him to do, like they might just be like run a button hook, DJ or whatever, and if he, I don't know, maybe they're just asking him to do things right now.
They might be using him wrong. And to be honest, it may be because the rest of the, Jameson Williams isn't there.
Right.
And like, maybe he's just filling a different role in the interim or something.
Yeah. Jameson Williams might be running the route tree when he returns that Chark is running right now. Right.
Yeah.
So I guess what I would say is like, right now, I think that you're probably right. Like he's not getting separation. Like the numbers are telling us that, but like one of our themes for this season is like, change your mind if the information's pointing in a different direction.
Yeah.
So like, let's say right now, like DJ Chark is not getting a ton of separation, but let's also hold out our final opinions until we see him play, 6 or 7 games with Jameson Williams.
Yeah.
It'll
and definitely be interesting to see that room come together and get the guys in there that we want.
Yeah. So if the focus shifts to Williams and he's matched up on a number 2 corner, because he's drawing the best corner every game.
Yeah.
Then you might see a stark difference,
Yeah. Even more of a powerful offense. So let's take a peek. One of the things that we want to talk about, and I know we wanted to stick to around 90 minutes and we already hit it, but
yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, it's all good. The passer rating.
So this is a terrible statistic as far as I'm concerned. So
it is terrible.
So I looked this up the other day. You're looking at exactly the thing that I was looking at. So then the thing I wanted to do was see if I could replicate this. And this is a great tool if the people at home want to calculate passer rating for themselves for whatever reason. But like this is a stupid stat. Like, and I don't understand why it's used. But like, let's talk about it a little bit, see if we can figure it out.
It could go from 0 to 158.3, which seems oddly specific and not anything like normal 0 to 100 or some sort of round number.
It's not intuitive, right? Like you look at that and you go, I don't know what that means when I see. So like Jared Goff's passer rating from this last week was 121.5 or like 5.3 or something like that. And if we put in his numbers, that number under passer rating is going to state that.
Right.
But like, so is 121.53 out of 158.3 good? I think so.
I mean,
I don't know.
Closer to 158.3 than it is 0.
Right. So this formula does 2 things. It's basically 2 separate things. Like you have to plug in a player's stats to generate 4 separate data points. And then you use those data points to generate the overall passer rating.
Right.
Okay. So if we just look at what we're trying to put into this formula, it's already, I mean, some things to me already stick out.
Do we want to look at the formula, or do you want me to put it into the calculator?
Go ahead. So he had 39 attempts.
39. And so just out of curiosity, if we have 0 completions, we should have 0 passer rating, right?
Well, no.
We'll get there.
he had 26 completions for 378, 4 touchdowns and a pick. Now, so first of all, there's a difference when it comes to picks, right? Like the pick that he threw in the Philadelphia game and the pick that he threw in the Seattle game are not the same thing. They go on his stat sheet like they're the same thing.
Yep.
But they're not the same play. Not all interceptions are the same, right? Not all touchdowns are the same. So
I'm just playing.
Now it just so happens that this pick was a bad pick, right? Like it was on him. He admitted it. So he completed. This is the best completion percentage that he's had all year. He's right at like what I would consider to be the standard, like 67%, 2 out of every 3.
Yeah.
Lots of yards, lots of touchdowns, 1 pick. Great. Okay. Like I don't know that you could really ask a quarterback to say like I'm going to be at a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Like if you told me before the season, Drew, your quarterback, regardless of however many touchdowns and picks they throw, it's at a 4-to-1 ratio. I'm like, cool. We're gonna run. We're gonna run with that. I'm pretty stoked about that. So, but like rushing yards, good decisions, weather, travel time, quality of opponent. None of these things,
right?
Drops, right? So like
throwaways.
Yeah, throwaways. Like some of these things, like a throwaway in certain situations is a good idea, is a good play. Saves a sack, right? Saves field position.
Yep.
You know, it's a smart decision. Like, I mean, every throwaway is not a bad play by the quarterback, right? So like just the fact that we are saying how many passes did you complete, whether they're your fault or not, and like how many attempts did you have, which is also not his call entirely, right? Like that's being called by the offensive coordinator.
Right.
So, and like how many yards did you complete? Like, so, I mean, if you took off the 81-yard completion that he had to TJ Hawkinson in that game, like he only threw for 280 yards, right? Or 290, something like that.
Yep.
It's a big difference, one play. So, you know, and like you're changing these numbers right around, and it's like, is that rating really different? Like if he throws for 80 yards less, his points go down by, his rating goes down by 10 points.
Yeah. The thing that really made me realize this is such a garbage statistic is if we go 0 yards, 0 completions, so obviously no touchdowns, 39. Every pass he throws hits the ground.
Yeah.
It should be 0, right? Because it's on a scale from 0 to 153.
Right.
It's 39.58.
Right. Like it. So like the tweet that I saw that I think you and I are both talking about here is that like if you for some reason had a quarterback who every passing attempt just spikes the ball into the ground like it was during like the hurry up drill, they would score above a 0 on this particular stat. You know, and so.
But if he makes 1 completion and 1 interception, it's worse than if you just threw everything in the ground.
So like, I don't know what it would take to get to a 0, you know, and I don't care, but like, because the point is like, you know, the stat is not intuitive, right? Like, so when you look at it, it's like, it's not on a scale of 100. So like our minds are conditioned from a very early age to think of things in percentages. Yep. You're X% of whatever it is you're talking about, right? This does not do that. So automatically, I think that you're behind the 8 ball as far as like being able to like explain what the hell it is. And so this is something that you and I like doing, is talking about analytics, right? And so we wanted the people listening to us to also be able to say, like, well, passer rating isn't really that great of a tool. Here's why, the here's why part is the part that's important. So like week 1, they play the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts like gashed the Lions on the ground, but had worse passer rating than Jared Goff. So everybody's like, well, Jared Goff played better than Jalen Hurts. Well, he threw the ball better than Jalen. Jalen had the better game. Like, if I'm the general manager of a team, should I not take into the fact that like a player like Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts is going to affect the game by his ability to run the ball?
Right.
So this might have been a great stat in the era of like Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, all those players that are less mobile. Yeah. And so Funky says he trusts his eyes over most stats. And like a lot of people do, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But at least now if Funky has a conversation with somebody else, he can be like, this is why passer rating's garbage. Trust your eyes,
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that PFF does.
Right.
They use their eyes and they make that call of, this was a bad decision because all of these things happened, or this was just the throwaway. That was the right move. We're not going to ding him on it. Whereas this is just numbers. And that was one of the things that Eric Eager had mentioned when he came on. Because I asked him, because I was not a big fan of PFF for a long time, because I just didn't like the subjectivity. And I wanted to know a little bit more about that. And he essentially, he's like, passer rating is subjective. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a mathematical formula. He's like, but somebody subjectively decided these different values meant things and meant this percentage of whatever output. It's like, that was subjective. It's just a formula that was subjectively created. We're doing something similar, but the entire thing is subjective. It's not just like these couple things, and no matter what you put in there, it just works. And QBR is something similar, where closer to what PFF does, where they rate the plays and whatnot. But which is why people started using QBR over passer rating, because there are two different things. It's people think, quarterback rating and passer rating are the same, but they're not.
They're not.
So, and PFF is really just like one level better than the QBR side of things, right?
Yeah.
So you're chuckling.
Well, Funky says he trusts his eyes, not someone else's. That's cool. That's cool too.
Yeah.
That's cool too.
Yeah. That's why I've never liked passer rating. It doesn't matter. If you spike the ball to end the game, guess what? Your passer rating just dropped.
Right.
Why? It was the right move.
Right.
You didn't do anything wrong.
So if you could make your screen just a tad bigger, Mike.
Sure thing.
So this formula, if you scroll down, passer rating is A plus B plus C plus D divided by 6 multiplied by 100, right? So how do you figure out what those letters are? So up at the top, it's basically completions divided by attempts. And then I don't know, I'm sure it's not arbitrary, but minus 0.3 multiplied by 5, yards divided by it. Go ahead.
It was definitely not arbitrary, but it's still not.
It's not intuitive. Right.
Yeah.
So you've got yards divided by attempts. Okay. TDs divided by attempts. Interceptions divided by attempts. And then there's some factors that go into this. And then those generate your 4 data points. And then you can plug those into that formula to determine passer rating. And that's what Pro Football References site will do. Like, they'll take the formulaic crap out of the work so you don't have to do it. And you just have to plug in what your quarterback did across those 5 numbers right here. And then you can figure it out for yourself. So that's a great source. One thing, if you can go back to the previous page, Mike, one thing that I thought was also interesting about passer rating are these 2 sentences. If the result of any of those 4 calculations is greater than 2.375, it becomes 2.375. And if the result is a negative number, it's 0. So like you're not really using the results of these data points. You're just saying
it's like a min-max is what they're trying to do.
These things have to fall inside this range.
Yeah.
And then like you're capping the results already.
Yeah.
So like when we talk about like statistics being subjective as opposed to objective, this is what we're talking about. Like someone said when they made this metric up that like whatever any individual score among these 4 data points can never exceed X and never can be below Y. You know? And so like how great of a gauge can it truly be if you're forcing everyone inside this box? So right here it says a perfect passer rating requires at least like 31 completions in 40 attempts, 12.5 yards per attempt, 11.875% of TDs to per attempt, and no picks. Like that's stupid.
Yeah. So how can you be perfect and only pass at a 78% completion rate? That's not perfect. You've missed on 22% of your attempts. That's not perfect. But if you have 77.5% completion percentage, you have 12.5 yards, and then you have one touchdown every 8.421 attempts, you're perfect. No, you're not. Right. This is garbage.
That's not perfect. I mean, I don't know any coach that would be like, oh, this is great. And like 77.5% completion percentage, like I would love to know how many quarterbacks this year have hit that mark. Like Josh Allen might have done it against the Rams in the first game of the season. But like that's unbelievable. That's 10 percentage points higher.
So that's the minimum though. So like I think if you do less than this, your average yards per attempt and your touchdowns have to be at a higher rate. And I think you can still hit it. But this is like the minimum that you can do to get it. And I think of the other things. So like one of the things that I thought was interesting was, so you've got 36 for 39 for 100 yards and no touchdowns, no picks. That's damn good. I mean, like percentage wise, it's probably a lot of passes.
3 yards a pass, but yeah.
So let's move that, and that's a 79. So let's double that to 200 yards.
Throw 400 in there. Hey, Max, what's up, man? I heard you're back in the States.
Yeah, he surprised me. I'm sitting there vacuuming my house yesterday. I look over, and then bam, there's some random German standing in my house. It was pretty great.
Crazy kids.
So, 36 of 39 for 400 yards. But you get down there to the goal line, and your running back jumps it in, and you're only at 109.4.
Yeah, throw one touchdown on there for me.
One touchdown. Bam. That's another. Yeah. So, like, this is kind of the absurdity of this is you can be essentially perfect. Calculate. Yeah. So you could have a perfect 39 of 39 for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns and not be perfect.
Right. Like, I mean, I don't know any coach that would be like, we're going to throw the ball 49 or 40 times and you're going to make 36 completions for 400 yards. Like, I don't know any coach that would be like, well, we're turning that down.
Yeah. You can have four touchdowns and not be perfect.
So the one other, I mean, we're getting close to the end of the stream here because we're almost at 2 hours, but like QBR is supposed to, but like QBR is supposed to improve upon this metric, but all the information as to how they determine QBR is proprietary information from ESPN.
Yeah.
So we have no idea how they calculate it. So we just kind of have to trust, but like without knowing how it's calculated, like I don't know whether or not to call it a stat that's worth paying attention to. It's just something that the industry uses, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, interestingly, Trent Dilfer was one of the group of guys that put this together.
Right.
Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Super Bowl winning Trent Dilfer, right?
Yeah.
So like this one player is clearly proof that you don't need a great quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Hey, when did he win that Super Bowl, by the way? Was it like 2000?
Oh gosh, yeah, it was probably 2 decades
just
ago.
Put your it said right there, Super Bowl winning in the season 2000.
Yeah.
How many years has it been since this example? 21 years? Like,
yeah.
I wonder if football has changed at all. Probably not.
So the interesting thing about the QBR was they do kind of rate the plays. So each quarterback action play is measured in terms of expected points added. So EPA, there's a discount on garbage time. So if the score is quote out of reach, whatever they determine out of reach is, your yards don't count as much, your touchdowns don't count as much. But the interesting thing is, they actually had to change it a couple times. Once because, who was it? Charlie Batch had the greatest individual game ever QBR of a 99.9, because it's a 0 to 100 scale. He threw for 186 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks, and had the greatest QBR game of all time.
Right.
So they're like, yeah, we need to fix this.
Maybe this isn't an example of the best game ever played.
Yeah.
Right.
So they ended up fixing it. And then Tim Tebow got a higher rating than Aaron Rodgers in their respective contests. Rodgers was 26 for 39 for almost 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tebow was 4 of 10 for 79 yards, 1 touchdown, and had a higher rating than Rodgers. Why? Rodgers was there for the whole game, and Tebow was there for essentially a half.
Right.
So Alex Smith had a QBR of 7.8, half as much as 16.1 from Phillip Rivers, even though Smith had a higher completion rate, a better average per completion rate, and a better touchdown interception ratio, and won the game. Like, QBR is also, just based on the way that they do things, is also very formulaic, and sometimes those formulas just straight don't work.
Right.
So that was not the death knell of QBR, but I think that's one of the reasons why PFF is doing what they're doing, and it's becoming the industry standard.
Right, because it's not these like formulas that are like plug a number and then you get a number that we're supposed to equate to how well you played. Like, that's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, like anything to do with numbers is almost going to be inherently flawed anyways, because humans are the ones that are using them.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, if you want to trust your eyes, I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just saying, like, this can be something to add to your toolbox, right? So we want to just take a step beyond just hearing about it in order to like tell the 6 people who listen to our podcast what we're doing, or what the NFL is trying to do, and what the differences are, so that when you're standing around a water cooler at work on Monday, you can be like, well, I listened to this podcast and they were like, really, it's just the statistical generation of a formula based off of like stats that can be either meaningful or not meaningful. Like, let me tell you why I think that, and like, that's what we're here to do. Like, we want to be a casual podcast, but like, we do want to go one step beyond just regurgitating what like NFL media analysts say. And I want to know why.
Got some great content, but we want to be one step better than Dan Orlovsky.
Oh God.
So, but no,
hard not to be with Orlovsky.
And these are the things that, like, I know for me, it took me a long time to kind of like be exposed to things like, why is the passer rating like something I shouldn't give a shit about?
Right.
Well, this is why. Like, it's very haphazard, and there's a lot of things that just don't matter. There's a lot of things that do matter that it doesn't take into consideration. There's a lot of things that doesn't matter that they just blow it out. So, and then I kind of was big into the QBR, and now that I've looked at more of what that is and why, I'm not as big of a fan of that as I think it's better than passer rating, but there are definitely some flaws in it. And I've been more a fan of the PFF stuff, which I wasn't earlier, because they also keep some of their stuff, proprietary, which is It's fine. That's how they make their money. QBR is the same way.
Yep.
It's ESPN's, and it's one of the things that they do to, promote their stuff. So I can't like hold it against them, but understanding why we kind of push more into the PFF side of things than just your straight, what does the box score say? Well, the box score doesn't show us that, Goff had 3 drops yesterday.
Right.
And that means something. So your stats may show 3 incompletions, but like
he is not the greatest.
He's Orlovsky. So like those are the kind of things that we're kind of looking at. So when people are like, well, why do you like PFF? I'm like, well, pass rating blows. QBR is well documented with its flaws.
Mm-hmm.
PFF is the next best thing. Like, what else are we going to look at? We got to look at something. And so if the other 2 suck, even if PFF isn't great, it's still better than everything else we got. So we might as well use the best of what we got.
Right. We're trying to get one step better in everything that we do. So like if, there was probably a time when just stats told you the story. And then there was a time for metrics. And now there's a time and now grading might be the next step to get closer to what the truth is about like how this game operates.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to do, is get like one step closer. So right now that's what PFF is doing, right? And so the industry is changing to reference that, but there will be a next thing, and then we'll look at that too.
Yeah.
So
you look at never going to articles now, they talk about PFF grades. They don't talk about pass. I mean, they mention passer rating because a lot of people just know it.
They mention it if it proves their point, right? Like if it's a stat that you can hang your hat on. Like this is the thing that like a lot of Goff truthers or apologists, however you want to talk about them out there, love to do. It's like, oh, lots of stats, lots of touchdowns, great passer rating, must be doing good, right?
Hey,
I don't know if that's the only thing you hear. That's the thing that you'll repeat.
Yeah.
So like, I know there's a couple of YouTube channels out there that just absolutely love to promote the idea that Jared Goff is an elite quarterback. He's not. Like, and one thing that tells me that outside of all of this stuff is what Funky was talking about. My eyes. I don't understand how anyone can watch Jared Goff and be like, hey, if that dude had a Colts uniform on, I'd be like, oh man, I wish he was on my team.
Right.
Like this is just like he's wearing your uniform, so you're gonna push the best, most positive narrative about him that you can, whether it's true or accurate or whatever.
I tend to be on the positive side and a little rose-colored glasses, but with this, I'm a little bit more on the realistic side. I'm trying to become more realistic on some of this stuff, just because I feel that I don't necessarily want to lie to myself, essentially, on on different things. But yeah, I don't dislike him. I think he's. We talked, was it last week? We talked about just the idea of being open-minded and changing your mind. And, one of the things that I did was I changed my mind on PFF. Like once I actually learned more about it and understood it and how it differs from things like QBR passer rating, I changed my mind. I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty damn good. And, you were changing your mind a little bit on Swift and whether we re-signed him to a second contract. Now he has to stay healthy, so whatever the shoulder thing or whatever is, but he's showing, like, maybe even you said maybe we do keep him.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked earlier before the show started about Goff, and like maybe if he keeps playing this way and our defense is so terrible that maybe we do invest, depending on where we are drafting, maybe we do invest in just all defense or, more defense and not go for a quarterback. Now, if we're picking 1, 2, or 3, maybe we do, because that means Goff didn't keep up doing the thing that he's doing.
Well, or he's doing exactly what we're doing and we're still there,
Yeah. If he keeps this up, he's capable of winning some games if we have pieces. So let's get the pieces.
Right.
So it's kind of that whole change your mind. So that's one of the things I want to make sure that we kind of point out to people watching live or video on demand or whatever, that be open to new facts and thinking, what was my previous thought? Why did I have that previous, belief? And is it time to change? And looking at things. So,
right.
Like Funky mentioned, like Luke G said, sometimes you got to look at with your eyes. Like this is what I see. And sometimes this is what the experts are also saying. I can't ignore them all the time.
Yeah. So I think we're right at the 2-hour mark. So I think we'll sign off.
Right on.
I have a new sign off that I'd like to try, Mike.
Oh, let's do it.
And so if anyone is still in the chat listening, please let us know in the comments whether this is completely worthless or you'd like to keep hearing it. All right. So, we should do this first. You can catch us every Tuesday at 7 Eastern. Like, comment, and subscribe, which I hate saying.
Right.
And if you have any,
that's how we get the name out. It's 7 Eastern. It is 1 a.m. German time. So throwing it out there. Yeah.
Max, don't go to sleep. Just stay up and listen to our podcast on Tuesdays for a sport that you may not care about.
He's a big football fan.
Oh, good. And then if you want to follow in Joey's footsteps, you can email us at casualgmpodcast@gmail.com, and we will get to them on air.
We shall.
So before we go, let me know, guys, whether this is good or not.
Wait, hold on. Wait 1 second. We're at 38 subscribers.
Yeah.
We got a couple extras in the last week or so.
Mm-hmm.
So once we get to 50, we're going to get Drew a new hat that doesn't say Ravens.
Correct.
So tell your friends and other Lions fans to subscribe and check us out.
We're over 75% of the way there to our goal, right?
And as Joey D says, do it.
We're going to do it. Okay, guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's our show for today. And whether you're a diehard fan or a water cooler fan, remember, keep it casual.
I like it.
Do you like it? Okay.
I do.
Let's see if the people in the chat like it.
Yep. And then throw some comments in. But we will sign off. It was good to talk to you guys. Drew, always a pleasure.
Mock draft next week.
A6 Max, Crimson, Luke G, all you guys. I'm not missing anybody. Oh, there was somebody new. Who was the new one?
It was Kaqua.
Yeah. Thanks for joining in.
Am I saying that right? I don't know. KQA. I don't know how to say it. They'll have to tell us exactly what the phonetics are.
Spelling next time.
Yeah, but that was pretty cool.
Thanks everybody. Joey D. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
We'll see you next Tuesday after hopefully a win.
Mock draft. That's coming next week.
We can do a mock draft. Oh,
Can't
by
wait.
the way, guys, I have to throw a shout out to my uncle.
Okay.
Check this out.
Barry. All timer right there.
It's up. You got like glare. Ugh.
No, you can see it.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just glare for me.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
He's great.
I haven't hung it up yet, but I figured I'd show the group. So, all time.
Yeah. All right, man.
I think we're done officially. Peace.
See you next week.